What's your divorce vision? How are you going to keep your eye on the prize? Hello, welcome to FAB Talk with Lauren and Lori. I am Lauren, your becoming coach.
And I am Lori, your love and relationship coach. And together we are your FAB divorce coaches. So each week, Lauren and I get together for this little chit chat about some of the issues and concerns that you have surrounding your divorce, whether you're going through it now or you're thinking about it. We're talking things that you want to know about.
Today, we're talking about your divorce vision. So, we're both coaches, and I don't know about you, Laura, but whenever I start with a new client, whether it's working through divorce or some other issue of becoming, I always start with a vision, right? I always start with understanding what's important to that person, where they want to go, how they want to show up, what we're aiming for. And I think about it like a GPS system, right? Like when you're using a GPS, you have to put in your destination first, right? And then you figure out, do I turn left? Do I turn right? What are the paths I'm going to take? Is it going to be smooth and easy like a highway, or is it going to be like a bumpy back road? But like knowing that divorce vision is super important to allow you to show up the way you want to show up and for you to decide what's important about this divorce process for you.
Yeah, that's absolutely. That's a huge part of why it's important. When you think about it, look, the literal meaning of vision is to see. And we talk all the time about divorce feeling like you're in a tunnel where you can't see where you're going, where you've been, and you're just really stuck. But another, definition of vision is the ability to think about or plan with wisdom and imagination. And
Mm.
so, a huge part of what I learned when I was going through my divorce was to have what I called the divorce vision. What was it that I wanted to see at the end of this process? Became a huge driver and became exactly what you said it was. It's like a blueprint. It gave me a direction to head. It gave me goals, and more importantly, it gave me the boundaries and the kind of the, like if you're on a bumper car, those little rubbery things to bounce off of. So I knew that when I was getting away from what I envisioned, I could steer myself back, and that helped me pick battles. But I always knew that I was moving forward and not like a ping pong or that ping pong game thing where you're just boing, 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 right? It was headed straight. So yeah, it's a big part of a successful divorce.
It is. It is. And I love that you said it was like a guidance system or like the boundaries, right? So knowing it's sort of like when you go bowling with kids and they put those bumpers up in the gutters, right? So that the ball, you start to drift and then the ball, hits the gutter and it starts to bounce straight again. And I think that what that allows you to do is to know what to say yes to and what to say no to, right? To
Absolutely.
know what you're going to allow and what you're not going to allow. And having those boundaries is incredibly important, not only, oh my God, for so many reasons. Well, let's say this for clear communication, right? It helps you have clear communication with somebody else. It helps you feel strong and solid and respected. For respecting yourself, you are respecting what's important to you by sticking to those boundaries. And that vision helps you to do that.
Yeah, and divorce is it's like it's built on shifting sands. And
Mhm.
things are always moving, and you think you're on steady ground, and then something happens and poof, you're unbalanced again. But when you have a divorce vision, you have, like you said, the roadmap, but you have an identifiable goal to help you steer straight. Even when you want to steer him off the cliff, you can keep, steering straight to your goal. But I think it's really important that we define what we mean when we're working on a divorce vision in the your FAB divorce, course. So when we've all kind of heard the story now, how FAB divorce kind of got started with the whole idea of me as a coach giving myself a retreat on how to get through the divorce. And like you said, when you're a coach, the first thing you want, your client to do is to figure out what's your goal, right? So for me, it was really about, okay, my marriage was over, but keeping my family close and intact was my ultimate goal. That was the ultimate vision. When I saw myself through all the smoke and the fog of the divorce process, what did I want to see at the end of it was my family still being loving, still being close, still feeling good about being together, even though mom and dad weren't living together. So that became my driver. That became the very thing that, like we just talked about, when things were going off the rail, I could remember, okay, this is what you want. Is this argument worth it? Is this little bit of whatever worth going through this for? No. It guided the way I conducted myself. It guided the way I asked for things when we talked about property settlement and, all those kind of things that are really can be these little pops of stress and, discord between you. But knowing what I wanted and what was important to me kept me going forward, but more importantly, helped me maintain that feeling that I had control over this huge process that looked like it was just tearing up my life.
Well, and that's the important part, right? That is what helps you find that freedom that we talk about. Flourish in your freedom, or freedom to flourish, right? Is by having that sense of control back. So when you have that sense of control, knowing what you control, what you can control and what you can't, but when you have that sense of controlling things that you can control, you begin to feel more peaceful. You feel more solid, like you're not on shifting sands, but you're on solid ground.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just described, I mean, that's a beautiful vision, right? And I think that's a great example of what we're talking about. Like, where do you see yourself after this process? That's a great place to start. Like, what does it look like at the end of this process? But you can also have a vision for the process. How do you want to protect your kids from all the back and forth?
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to show up for yourself? Like, who do you want to be when you show up to negotiate? Like, do you want to be somebody who gets caught up in minutia, or do you want to be like the eagle that's rising above that minutia and taking it all in, but keeping your vision, your eagle-eye vision in your mind? And that's why a vision is so powerful. And excuse me, everybody, I have that lingering cough we all have this winter. But you mentioned two words that you were sort of using interchangeably, and I just want to tease them apart a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You said vision and you said goal, right? You're like ultimate goal. They can be the same, but they can also be different. Like when we have that vision, that long-term vision, we can set goals along the way to help us get there.
Yeah.
Right?
I always call, I'm sorry.
No,
I always call it it's the setting your direction, right? That's that far off thing. And you don't know exactly how you're going to get there. You don't know exactly what it's going to, but you know what you want it to be. And for some of us, like I said, for me, it was my family was intact. That may not be a possibility. Everybody has their own kind of individual things that they got to go through. But there is something, some version of what you want this to look like. And you're absolutely right. You set goals. And within your divorce vision, and which is one of the things that we teach you how to do in the class, is there are different little visions within that big vision, right? So one of it is, how do you envision the way this divorce process is going to look, right? How do I envision what my relationship with my husband and his family is going to look? How do I envision co-parenting? So there's a lot of different subsets that create that one vision. And you don't always know what they all are, especially at the beginning. But if you can find that one thing that's sort of the umbrella. So for me, again, with the example of my family intact, that's friendly and loving and sociable and connected, that did inform how I orchestrated my relationship going through the divorce process. That did inform how we both decided to talk to friends and family about what we wanted to look like as a unit, right? Like you don't have to make choices between me and him if you wanted to invite us both to the. So it really does inform the larger picture as you're working out the minor details or the smaller details.
Totally. And this is why it's so incredibly important. One of the things that I encourage my clients to do is you're saying to like think of that one thing. Like if you can distill that one thing down to just a word, right? So what you were kind of getting at is the word like respect. Like if you could show each other respect in the way that you spoke about each other to other people, in the way that you dealt with each other, like that would allow you to get to that place of family unity in the end, that the unit, right, is more important than how you felt individually. That was what was important to you.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have what's important to them. And when you have that word, when you have that one reminder, it serves as your motivation, right? It gives you motivation to get back on track, to keep going, to remember who you want to be, remember what's important. It helps you to remember and to keep your eye on the prize. And that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. It's, we talk so much and we bring this stat up every single chat. Divorce is 85% emotional and 15% legal. And the more you can get the emotional things under control, the much easier and cheaper that 15% at time for the legalities of the process are going to be. But the other thing that is really important when you take those stats into consideration and you take this idea of having a divorce vision is it's almost like, remember when you were getting married, you spent so much time planning and thinking about the wedding. When you got into the marriage, it's like, whoa, did I really sign up for this? And and that's even when things are good, when you're still in the honeymoons. So when you keep this in mind, this whole idea of keeping your eye on the prize, having your vision, getting your emotions in check, it's the long term, it's the long haul. It's how you make the divorce process just kind of a stop on the journey towards you and your new life and your new, your next chapter. And so having that blueprint that is totally built on what you want, right? And yes, you are dealing with another person's wants and needs and their emotions, and all you have to control is your emotions. But when you can say to somebody, look, I really want to make sure that we are co-parenting in a way that our kids thrive and love each of us equally. It's really, you got to be a major a-hole to say, no, I don't want that. And it may be that in the anger in the moment they may say that or something like that, but they come around to it. But you have something that can you can help orchestrate the process so that when you come out of the divorce process, you are in process of your life. And so instead of your divorce being a nightmare and your afterlife being a nightmare, it is much more manageable and a much more pleasant journey and outcome to something that can be really, that's already emotional and painful, but doesn't have to be as much.
Lori, you said something, and just like all these light bulbs just went off in my mind, which is why I hope people listen to these conversations, right? Because you just don't know where that inspiration is going to come from.
Yeah.
But you were talking about planning your wedding. We spend so much time planning a wedding, thinking about the person we're going to marry, thinking about what that might look like. Shouldn't you spend at least a fraction of that amount of time actually planning your divorce, planning the separation, right? If you think about, relationships having a beginning, a middle, and an end, like at least put the same effort
Yeah.
in to the end so that you can have an experience that you truly feel empowered by and not like you're getting run over.
Yeah,
So
your FAB marriage, your FAB divorce. I mean, it's like the bookends, the perfect bookends,
the perfect bookends. And that's what we're here for. We are here to help you think about and plan for your FAB divorce. So if you would like to hear more about our FAB divorce program, to learn more about our what we have to offer you, then please look in the description below and click on the link for our FAB divorce program.
Definitely. And understand this. Everything that you're hearing in these little talks, we expand upon. We give you the tools, we give you the roadmap and the workbooks and all this great information so that you can literally be in control of a process that can get out of control really easily. So like Lauren said, subscribe to the channel so that you can get all these nuggets of wisdom, but also check out the course in the description link to see if it's something that might work for you.
Absolutely. And try to remember to keep your eye on the prize. Knowing your divorce vision is what's going to help you flourish in your next chapter.
We'll see you next time.
I don't really